Off-grid RVing, what is it? Well, some of us like to call it boondocking. We call it boondocking, but really it's being off-grid. And with that we mean there's no electrical hookups, there's no water hookups, there's no waste tanks to dump. You're just staying out in the middle of wherever and depending solely upon your self-contained RV. And we do off-grid in two ways. Either if we're going from point A to point B, we'll make a one-night stop at, say, a Walmart or a casino parking lot or something of that nature. Or we like to off-grid out in the wild. Now, we've done a lot of off-grid or boondocking out in the wild. We spent a week in southern Utah on our way down south this year as snowbirds. We just got back from 4 weeks in Quartzsite with no hookups, and that was all off-grid. And we made the promise to you that we would share some of those off-grid experiences and show you some of the things that we discovered from our friends while we were in Quartzsite this year. So what do you need to off-grid? Well, the first thing you need is power. And there are two types of power in an RV. You have DC and you have AC. Your DC are things such as your lights, your interior lights, your water pump, your furnace motor, and your fantastic fan. Those all run off of battery power, and your RV is set up to power those items with batteries. But then you have your AC things such as your TV, your microwave, your hair dryer, your coffee maker. Those things are powered with standard 110 electric. Most RV manufacturers set their RVs up to run off of DC power, and they provide you with one, maybe two 12-volt batteries to run your things such as your lights, your water pump, your furnace motor, your fantastic fans, and that sort of thing. But in order to provide power to your AC units or your 110, your outlets, your TV, your microwave, your hair dryer, then you need an inverter. Now, we like to boondock or off-grid like we're plugged in. We have a residential refrigerator in our RV, so that's going to require 110 power constantly. We like to run our microwave when we want to. We like to run our television when we want to. Kelly likes her blow dryer and her curling iron. These are all things that run off of the AC or the 110 side of your rig. And one or two batteries is only going to get you maybe a day or a half a day, because those things draw so much power even if you have an inverter on board. Now, all of our equipment that we have on board for off-grid is Victron, and so everything that you're going to see is blue because it's Victron blue, because that's what we have on board. But because we like to boondock like we're plugged in, we have 8 100 amp hour lithium batteries on board. That gives us 800 amp hours of power, and for our use we find that that will get us about 2 full days or 48 hours worth without any charging. Now, when you're off-grid and you use your batteries, you've got to recharge those batteries somehow. And how do you do that when you're not plugged into a power pedestal with a charger? You basically have two options, either a generator or solar panels. Now, we have both in our RV. We have a 7,000 watt gas-powered generator, but we really don't like to use it much because filling it with gas can be costly and generators are kind of noisy. So we don't like to run it very often. What we've done is we've installed 8 200 watt solar panels on our roof. It's a little over 1,600 watts total. We have them mounted on tilt mounts, which allows us to tilt the panels up on an angle during the winter months when the sun is low on the horizon. We found that if we left the panels flat, in other words, we did not tilt them, we would have to run the generator about an hour to an hour and a half in the morning and about an hour to hour and a half in the evening to get our batteries back up to full charge. Once we tilted, we were up to 100% on the batteries by early afternoon, 2, maybe 3 o'clock at the latest. So tilting them in the wintertime gives you the best bang for your buck, but you do have to crawl up on the roof to tilt them. So to sum up our system, we have 8 100 amp hour lithium batteries, giving us a total bank of 800 amp hours of lithium. We have a 3,000 watt inverter, which takes the 12 volt from the batteries and converts it into 110 so that we can run our TV or our microwave or the hair dryers or whatever else, and our refrigerator. And we have 8 200 watt solar panels on the roof, which are tiltable with a solar charge controller to charge the batteries from the sun. Now, all RVs are self-contained. They have a freshwater tank, they have a gray water holding tank, and they have a black water holding tank. So it's great to go boondocking, and you don't have to worry about your freshwater or wastewater unless you're there for a long period of time. When we're just doing overnight stops, it's a piece of cake. We have our freshwater on board, we can get rid of our gray water and stays in the gray holding tank, and the black water stays in the black holding tank. But what if we want to stay more than a night or two or even a week? We can usually, with our 100 gallons of freshwater, our 75 gallons of gray, and our 50 gallons of black, we can usually squeeze out maybe 2 weeks. But we were in Quartzsite for 4 weeks in the desert. So what we normally would do is we would normally, after our gray tank filled up, and it was usually the first one to fill up, we would hook up the truck, go out to the dump station, dump our gray, dump our black, and fill up with fresh water, and then come back and set back up again. Our friends that were out there with us do a lot of boondocking, and they have got some great ideas that we'd like to share with you guys. Now, one of the things that we discovered this year is a water bladder, a portable water bladder. And they're basically heavy-duty plastic. We have a 60-gallon water bladder, and the reason that we carry a 60-gallon is because when we go to pick up more fresh water from the fill station, we can put it in the back of the smart car. I can put 50 or 60 gallons in the bladder in the back of the smart car and then drive very slowly back to our campsite to pump it back into the RV. Now, these bladders come in all different sizes. As I said, ours is a 60-gallon. I'm comfortable putting 40 to 50 gallons in it without it exploding. Some of our friends had 150-gallon bladders. They'd lay it out on the bed of their truck. They'd drive out to the water fill station. They'd fill it up with 150 gallons of water and then drive the truck back to camp. And they would fill up their tank and still have water left over to share with their friends. We did have a couple of friends that had very large poly tanks, clear poly tanks. And they can hold anywhere from 35 gallons up to 150 gallons. There was a 350-gallon poly tank there at Quartzsite this year. It just depends on what kind of space you have to travel with. Now, because space is such a premium in our RV, we opted for the foldable portable bladder. But some of those poly tanks, if you've got a big heavy-duty truck and you've got a lot of room in your RV and you could carry it with you, those work really, really well. So how do you get the water from your tanks into your RV? We've discovered over the years that most RVers that are full-time carry a backup water pump with them, just in case theirs goes out on the road. You can buy these water pumps usually off of Amazon, which is where we got ours. So we carry a spare water pump, fresh water pump with us, and it's the same one that's in our RV for a backup. Now, we use that to pump out of our bladder and into our coach, which is what most of our friends do as well. After you use all of that fresh water, you've got wastewater that you need to get rid of. Wastewater being gray water and your black tanks. Most of you know what a blue boy is. If you don't, here's a picture of a blue boy. And a lot of RVers carry a blue boy with them, and we've seen them carried in different ways. We've seen them in the bed of the pickup truck. We've seen them strapped to the back ladder of their rig. We've seen them in a back carry on the back of the RV in a trailer hitch. I mean, there's many, many ways to carry a blue boy. And because our space is so limited as full-timers, we don't have a blue boy. But a lot of our friends at Quartzsite this year did, and it really worked well for us. Our friend Mark has a 47-gallon portable waste tank. He was nice enough to ask us if we wanted him to come over and drain our black and gray tanks into his waste tank, which he puts on the back of his side-by-side, and then he drives it out to the dump station and dumps it. And it worked out great. So I've seen a lot of people use the Blue Boys, and they'll just set it on the ground at their tank dump pipe, hook their sewer hose up to it, and then let gravity dump it into the tank. These guys at Quartzsite have got it down to a science. They purchased a macerator pump that actually twists onto your RV sewer outlet. You hook it up to 12 volt, you hook a garden hose up to it, and it actually pumps the waste out of the tank and macerates it as it's coming out of the black into your waste tank. It works great. Some of our friends even have two 47-gallon waste tanks that they use, and they just leave them strapped to the bed of their truck, and then when their waste tanks are ready to be dumped, they're already on the back of the truck and ready to fill. Our good friend Steve went so far as to weld a tank in between the frame rails of his truck, so he can pump his waste into, and I don't remember how big the tank was, but he can pump his waste with a macerator into his tank that actually is welded inside underneath the bed of his truck, and he can go dump his tanks that way. So you like boondocking, don't you?
I do. We've got it down pretty much.
We do.
So it makes it a little easier for us.
We do, but the boondocking that we do, we don't spend. So our friends at Quartzsite, they spent from October, and they're going to be there till April.
Yeah.
And so they really needed a robust system to basically live on.
They are warriors out there, I tell you. I couldn't do it for that long.
But we learned a lot from them.
Oh, yes.
And they were just so gracious and let us, you know, they helped us out with dumping our tanks. They helped us out with our fresh water. It was just a lot of fun.
It was, and I tell you, it's a lot nicer to have them do it like that than for us to have to button everything up, put everything away, wait in those long lines. And I don't know if you've ever seen those long lines, but they could be 15 RVs long.
Or 20.
Or 20, or maybe...
For 2 dump sites.
Yeah, for 2 dump sites. So it was such a blessing to be able to have them do that for us and touch our stuff.
But they're at one end of the scale. You know, they're up here on their boondocking expertise and equipment, and we're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, we do harvest hosts. Usually 99% of the time, the harvest hosts that we stay at do not have hookups.
And we're only there for a night anyway.
Right. We do a lot of Walmarts. We do parking lots. We do, you know, casino parking lots, that sort of thing. So we don't need the extremes that those guys have, but we wanted to share with you some of the ideas that they had and show you some of the great ideas that they had come up with.
Oh, I tell you, if we were like that, where we went and boondocked 90% of the time, we would definitely have something like that.
Absolutely.
Because that just makes your life so easy.
Yeah, it really does. So why do we love to boondock? Well, again, if we're going from point A to point B, it's kind of a necessity. We just have a one-night stop. But really, we really enjoy getting out into some of those spaces that are isolated.
Absolutely. Like we went to Utah.
Yeah.
We were able to go to see slot canyons, which weren't very far from there.
Right.
I mean, the things that you can see when you're boondocking versus in an RV park, it's amazing.
And there's a lot of BLM land, as we've told you before, there's a lot of BLM land out west here. And so there's a lot of boondocking available.
Yes.
And they're just in some of the neatest places. The other place you can boondock, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but the other place that you can boondock is in National Forest land.
You can.
And up to 14 days. But some of the national forests that they have up there in North Idaho and western Montana that we visited, oh my goodness, they're absolutely gorgeous.
Talk about wildlife.
Yeah.
If you want to see the wildlife, go there.
Yeah. So the beauty and the things to see and the things to do are the reason that we enjoy boondocking, as well as the isolation.
Absolutely.
And so we're not we don't have a whole lot of equipment. We've got enough to get us through the time. We usually stay a week.
Yeah.
Maybe 2. I don't think we've ever done a 2-week boondock. We usually stay a week.
No, I think you're right.
And then it's time for us to leave.
Yeah. And so go see other places.
Yeah. And then we pull out of our boondock site and we can go to a public dump station or get public water someplace at an RV park or something. There may be a small fee for that, but at least we can take care of our tanks and our fresh water there.
That's right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I learned a lot this year at Quartzsite from our friends.
Yes, and they just, like I said, they just blessed us so much by doing that for us.
Yeah, and we give them many, many thanks. So, those are some of the things that we wanted to show you that we learned this year through our Quartzsite experience and with our friends as far as the boondocking is concerned. And we've had questions in the past on our solar setup, what we have, how we go about it. I installed it all myself. I will tell you that if you don't have a good understanding of wiring and current knowledge, it's probably not something you want to do by yourself.
Right,
if you're a quick learner and you can get on YouTube and you can look at this and look at that, but there's some expensive components that you can really ruin if you wire it the wrong way.
It can be very expensive.
Yeah, and DC voltage, if you guys know DC voltage, you're well aware that if you can get DC voltage, you can actually weld a hole in a piece of aluminum with the DC voltage. So there's some things to consider there.
Yes.
But it is a simple process if you understand everything. And as I say, I've installed our last 3 solar setups, and I've helped friends install theirs. It's just something that I kind of enjoy doing, and it helps us get along.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to say we've had a lot of women. Usually it's women, and nothing against men, but they're nervous to go out and boondock, even for just a couple days, because they don't know. So I say the best thing to do is to go out with another couple, and do it together.
Yeah.
And then that way you have somebody to bounce things off of. If something happens to your vehicle or whatever, you can go in theirs. So it's safe in numbers when you do boondocking for the first few times. And that's my
that's a good
my
point.
thought.
That's a good point. Go with friends that have been there, done that, and have the experience. They can kind of show you the ropes. And we've never felt, trying to think back, we have never felt unsafe boondocking.
No.
People ask us that all the time. Is it safe? Do you feel safe?
Well, so far we haven't had any bad experiences.
No.
But, you can always pack up and leave.
Yeah.
That's the one good thing about it, is that you don't have to stay.
Yeah, if you get to a location and something just doesn't feel quite right,
Yes.
move on.
Yeah. Trust that, those emotions.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. All right, so we've shared quite a bit with you today, and we hope you have learned some things and it answers some of the questions you had. Again, we're always looking for video content, so if you still have questions on the boondocking experience or the off-grid experience or whatever the case may be, put a comment below or send us an email. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. And if you found this interesting and you think that maybe some of your family or friends that RV might find this interesting as well, there is a share button out there that you can hit. So you can click that share button and you can share it with your friends and or family, and hopefully they'll get something out of this as well. Because we just, as we told you before, we want to educate, but we also want to entertain, and hopefully you found this one a little bit entertaining. There you go.
Jazz hands.
So we're enjoying ourselves, and down south, you guys up north, you're still in the snow and the rain and the cold and the yuck.
Yes.
But we're enjoying this. We're enjoying this southwestern winter.
I have noticed that we are complaining. It's cold and windy, and I have to remind ourselves. There's
we're not
no
in the snow.
So stop whining, complaining, and be grateful for where God has put you.
All right, we're going to wrap this one up from Yuma, Arizona.
It all starts with an idea.
And turn those ideas into memories, guys. Do that, and lifelong memories.
That's right.
You can never go wrong. So we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.